Welcome, everyone, to my mother, Dr. Ingrid Eriksson, life celebration. As many of you know, it was her wish to have a life celebration on this day. And I do believe in my heart that her spirit is here with us, and she is smiling. She didn't want a fuss or a show or a ceremony. She wanted a come together and a sharing of friendship and memories, heartfelt, but ultimately uplifting. So, let us begin, and when we get to the sharing of memories, just stand up when you want to share a memory. And one at a time, let's hear it. Out of order. So we're going to start with a eulogy by Thorsten Zimmerman.
I at first have to thank all of you for taking the time to be here. I think it's wonderful to see so many people come together to celebrate my mom, especially considering what a peculiar year we've had in terms of fear and angst and all that stuff. It's amazing. Beyond that, there's not a prayer that I can do justice to my mom in a few short paragraphs or words. But I will start with Ingrid, my mother. Where to begin? Maybe her name. Ingrid was drawn, I think, from the Germanic god of fertility somewhere way back when. And then in Norse, Ing is beauty. So she is the embodiment of beauty and perhaps encompassing fertility. So the beautiful one with roots in fertility. Take it as you like. Children like me, or perhaps fertile in thought or action, or as I like to think of her, as nature and the world. Beautiful and fertile, like the rye there, the wheat there, and the world around us. And she was my world for so many years. Mama, Mom, teacher, provider, mother. For that she will be missed. She offered a unique world intertwined with nature, with my earliest memories rooted in chickens, dirt, and puppies. But then again, who else gets to live with the Cherokee on the Tennessee border? So I got to trade chickens, dirt, and puppies for Native Americans, hand-caught trout, bears, corn, and clay. What could be better for a 5-year-old? And for those experiences, she will be missed. Always there were walks, wherever we lived, and those places were many. But we walked about to look and to see and to talk about whatever. Ingrid, like nature, had a very matter-of-fact acceptance of the course of events in nature's web of life and death. Like the animals around her, she had a quickness of decision and follow-through about her, and for that, she will be missed. But that never kept her from the very human need to help, embodied by her choice in professions and by her choice in community, although perhaps she sometimes forgot to ask for help herself. Always she was interested to help those around her, especially in times of need, big and small. I remember stories of her bringing coffee out to the National Guard linesmen during the last big ice storm. For that compassion, she'll be missed. And even as I launched from her world, I was naturally caught in the gravity of that place and this, a satellite, revolving around all of those things, good, bad, or just plain difficult, that have made me what I am today. And for that, I will always be grateful. I love you, Mom.
I'm playing this movement of a solo Bach sonata for violin because I played it for my mother last year, probably on this day, and she said, I want that piece to be played at my life celebration. And I played it for her because this is one of the pieces I play for my children, my students. And I tell them I love it because it reminds me of a kaleidoscope of colors with patterns going up and patterns going down. And it's just a swirling geometric design of sound and notes. You can just put that bell underneath the stand, of course. Thank you.
My sister Ingrid. When I think of describing her, I think in superlatives. The most beautiful, the most talented, the most pugnacious, the most willful, the most determined, the most confident, and definitely the most brave. Now, that's the way I think of her. When I was very little, I would have added the most mean. But once I reached adolescence, she became the most steadfast advocate, counselor, and close friend I had, all wrapped up in one package. She was truly my beloved sister. Shortly before Christmas one year, when Ingrid was to be 13 and I 10, she approached me with her plan to get a horse for Christmas. Her long-sought dream. Now, in those days, horses a good horse cost about $100. You can guess that how long ago that was. At the riding stable, where she took lessons and where she went riding, she had already selected the horse she thought she had in mind. And she figured out the only way she could get such a present would be if I asked of something of equal value. Because my parents were diligent about ensuring equality. Therefore, since I enjoyed sewing, so much, not really, she proposed that I ask for a sewing machine. She must have researched this because she knew the value of a Singer featherweight, and she knew it was $100. I was flabbergasted, and I said I didn't think our parents could afford such gifts. But she insisted that they really had enough money, even though they were thrifty. So we went ahead with our requests in writing to Santa, and yes, she got her Rusty for Christmas, and I got my sewing machine. From that time on, Ingrid spent most of her weekends on the farm where Rusty had been bought, riding back roads, galloping through the hills and fields and orchards of the small rural county where we lived. She also hung out there as a stable hand and helped with chores, helped with haying. It was the life she craved, freedom from suburban life. As with this plan, Ingrid concocted other plans with great determination. Once she knew what she wanted, she went for it with a single-minded gusto. Whether it be a beauty pageant, a poster contest, a man in her life, or a medical degree, and she was almost always successful. But behind all the worldly achievements, her pervasive love was simply living off the earth, running a small farm in the country, surrounded by the animals and the family she loved, along with nature at the doorstep. She traveled, but that wasn't her love. She poured all her talent and skill and long hours into her medical practice, but after retirement, she lived happily and ended her life in the place she wanted, on the farm she and John had created within sight of the White Mountains. Somewhere in our family runs the blood and spirit of our ancestral Indian, a Mohican Indian named Asenath. That blood and spirit expressed itself strongly throughout Ingrid's life. She stood for unity, for protecting freedom and human rights, and most strongly for protecting the earth. In doing this, she felt the strength and courage of the warrior. She also intuitively understood and valued the seasonal cycles of the plant and animal life around her, but also the cycle of human life, living fully in the spring and summer of her life, resting and lying down in the fall and winter. And so, when one leg began to bother her with pain, which after months it became sharp pain, accompanied by little sleep, she waited until summer, when all the family gathered near, and she found out what was actually ailing her. It was then in the fold of family that she found out it was an incurable cancer that had reemerged after a long period of dormancy. She understood the meaning of this and bravely faced her few remaining days with a good spirit. A determination to tie up all loose ends became her focus, so as to assure her family would be secure. And she used her limited days and hours to do so. Her bedroom became somewhat like a beehive, busy with family members going in and out in different directions to carry out her last wishes. She planned where and how she wished to be buried. When all this was done, she could literally rest in peace and know that she would be placed in the earth she loved, on the farm she loved, and amongst the animals she so dearly loved. She would always and forever be home. Within days, after talking with each member of the family, she drifted off into a coma with a smile on her face, assuring us before her eyes closed forever that she was in a beautiful place. So here she lies with her husband, here she lies with her beloved dog, Luke, and her wonderful horse, Gabriel, near her always, exactly the site she chose as her final resting place.
like to call my sister Gretchen forward.
Hi, everyone. So when Chris emailed me to ask if I wanted to be on the program, I remember not being sure, and I didn't answer, and I didn't know until just now I was going to be on it, so I'm winging it, so I apologize if I'm awkward. But Ingrid came into my life when I was about 8 years old when she married my dad. And, this was the late 60s kind of time of social upheaval. But I remember her as being, I came to admire her. She was free-spirited. She appealed to my tomboyish nature of liking to climb trees and things like that. And then, so I thought she was wonderful. And she became my de facto mother for a few years. And then sometime during my adolescence, when I was acting out, she and my dad split up, and she was gone out of my life. And later on, in my later teens, I was, ruminating about how life had been unfair and all these bad things that happened to me. And I sat down and wrote her this, what I thought was an angry letter about how could she come into my life as my mother and then just disappear. And I expected either no response or an angry response, and instead I got a phone call going, "Oh, Gretchen, my long-lost daughter is back," and she read the real intent of what I was feeling. And we were close friends ever since then, so, thank you, Ingrid.
Yes, I would like to call my cousin David. Goodbye.
So as Ingrid's nephew, I want to say a few words about my memories of her. I think there's two basic things that I wanted to highlight about Ingrid, and that's, number one, her exceptional ability to focus on something and achieve her goals. And that set an excellent example for me in my life. She graduated from a top university as a physician. She had achieved so many things that others could not achieve, and she had a singular ability, a focus to be able to achieve those things. That's not something that I would have maybe appreciated as a child, but it's something that I can certainly appreciate now as an adult. The other thing that I would like to highlight about Ingrid is that she was a nature lover. And this has already kind of been touched on, but it has a more personal impact for me. Some of the first books that I got were some Tom Brown's field guide books when I was a kid from Ingrid. And even to this day, I still go to the Tom Brown school in New Jersey. So it had a lasting impact. There was many times when I would come up here and we would walk, and she would kind of give me a sort of a hip pocket class on what so-and-so tree does and what so-and-so herb does. And that was something that really kind of spoke to me as a person. I think also when I reflect back on my childhood, one of the things that maybe encapsulates this the best is whenever we would come up here, and we would come up from Baltimore, is there would always be different animals here. All kinds of different animals, and particularly dogs. So every time there was a different dog, and they were all really, really cool dogs. So I remember in Bedford, Massachusetts, it was, I think, Siberian Huskies, German Shepherd. Then when she first came up to Maine, it was a Malamute, Misha. It was a Doberman, I think, named Bucky. He used to just kind of take off through the field. And then later on, she had one pack of German Shepherds. There's a Great Pyrenees, and eventually, even today, you will see a flock of dogs. They're somewhere here on this property, but they're collies. And these dogs, they speak to that love that she had for animals. Because I've never seen as good-tempered, good-natured dogs as the dogs that she had. We had dogs too, but this was a differentiating feature of my mom and Ingrid, was that our dogs were undisciplined, unruly. They couldn't really behave themselves, and they still are, by the way. No offense, Mom. But on Ingrid's were always just very well disciplined, and you could tell well raised, and they had the same type of focus that I think she imparted maybe in her professional life, in the way that she raised her dogs. So that was something that I always appreciated. I'm surprised there wasn't a llama actually running around the farm, but goats and horses and all kinds of things. It's something about her that just came from within, and I feel that a natural sense of kinship on that particular issue. So I just want to say I'm incredibly grateful to have her as an aunt.
Who was my mother? For me, growing up, she was a constant in a childhood filled with perpetual change. She was the center of everything, bigger than life, and through observation, I learned it was possible to reach my dreams. Because of her, it never occurred to me that being a woman could be thought of as a hindrance. Just before she left us, I told her I'd always been so very proud and amazed by her. When I told her I felt I could never be as amazing as she was, she said she never felt amazing, but she was. She was fierce, brave, resilient, unafraid to dream big, and she was a hard worker. In time, when men dominated the work world, she went head on into the most macho field of medicine. She told me a story of a time she got slapped on the butt by a doctor who mistook her for a nurse. She told me how great it was to see this doctor's mortified face as she turned around. You couldn't intimidate her. One time, when I was maybe 13, and in the back seat of the car, Mom was pulled over for speeding, and I witnessed her tell off the police officer because he had called her a lady. She said, "How dare you call me a lady? I'm a woman." Mom was a wild force, a spirit uncontainable and free, a risk taker. The girl who rode bareback, galloping full speed head-on into the barn where only the bottom half of the door was open, and she lay back in the nick of time so as not to get decapitated, all while my poor grandmother, who told me this story, watched in horror. So I believe one of my earliest memories of my infant self riding in the handlebar basket of her bicycle is accurate. I remember one summer when I was about 8 years old, she took me for a day to go swimming in a gravel pit in Michigan. We had a wonderful day, skinny dipping and getting tan, but at the end, some man yelled at us about trespassing. She didn't care. We laughed it off. She was adventurous. One fall, she pulled Thorsten and I out of school so we could go up to the Allagash where there were only logging roads, so we could canoe and camp. It was a trip filled with astounding beauty, mixed with reckless possibilities of disaster. But it was a spectacular experience that most kids I knew would never have. She loved nature, especially the wild and untamed places in Maine. She identified with them, and that is why she wanted to become part of the earth on her farm. The very last words I heard her say were in a fleeting moment during her dream state, where she opened her eyes and said, honestly, this is what she said: "It's so wonderful up here." Then she slipped back to sleep and remained so. But it was then that I imagined her gleefully galloping her horse high above the mountains in the thunderclouds. The wind is her essence, all around, both encompassing and fleeing, bellowing and then whispering. That is where we can find her. That is who she was: the sky, the sea, the fields, the streams. She's all around. So Ellie Hyatt cannot be here. She really wanted to be here, and I feel partly responsible. I kind of flip-flopped about whether we were going to have this or not. The COVID really worried me, and then we got vaccinated, and I got hopeful, and by then it was too late. She'd already made plans. But Ellie was, or maybe the longest friend she's ever had. Ellie's mom and my grandma were friends. I believe they went to nursing school together, and Ellie knew Mom since she was a little girl. They went to school together. So this is Ellie's eulogy. I could go on and on with so many adventures that we shared, but I will start with March 13th, 1959. Several girlfriends decided to take skis, a horse pulling a sled, and go out to the local farm to test out our skis. I was elected to take the first run down a rather steep hill with my old wooden skis. Unbeknownst to us, there was a barbed wire fence buried beneath the snow at the bottom of the hill. Yep, my first broken leg occurred. Ingrid got me into the sled, and the horse pulled me to Sally Laidlaw's car. On the way to the hospital, we stopped to let my mother know of my accident. It was my mother's birthday, and she was just putting her birthday cake out of the oven. It landed on the kitchen floor after Sally yelled, "Mrs. Matcher, Ellie just broke her leg, and Ingrid is caring for her in the car. We are off to the hospital." This was Ingrid's first experience with orthopedic medicine, and as you all know, she spent her life caring for others like me. 4 of us decided to take a vacation to the Virgin Gorda. Ingrid decided we would take sailing lessons during our 10-day trip. She had no idea how to sail. Neither did we. Ingrid and I hired a young instructor. When we were well out to sea, the first day of our lessons, Ingrid took over the helm, and yes, we almost permanently met Father Neptune. I asked the young 18-year-old instructor why he let things get so out of hand, and his answer was, "She is older than my mother, and I did not know what to say to her." Dawn and I used to visit Ingrid in Maine at least once a year. She asked us to take care for her pets while she was working. No problem, I thought. I am not a fan of snakes, and Ingrid had a very large pet snake that she wanted me to feed. You guessed it, mice. I did not mind caring for the rest of the animals, but feeding mice to the snake was one step too far. Even though I reside 3,000 miles away in California, we would solve many problems together over the phone. We would strategize how we would attack an issue and formulate a plan. For Ingrid, fighting windmills being placed on her hilltop, or me dealing with a large airport beacon placed just off my property line, we tried to work as a team to create a solution. How I miss our frequent phone calls and her great sense of humor. Over the years, we survived so many adventures together, and the one thing I knew, I could always count on Ingrid and vice versa. I miss you, dear friend. But we'll never forget all that we've shared. You certainly made a better person. Oh, wait a minute. You certainly made me a better person. Ride your horse into the sunset, and know I will be joining you one day, Ellie. Okay, now I know that my stepfather wanted to be last, but I need to gather myself before I play my violin. So if he doesn't mind reading while I rest, I would appreciate it.
I'll try to be. I hope my voice is not too bad. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Ingrid and I completed each other in a way I had never or imagined could happen in my life. I have never been loved so fiercely or loved any other woman as fiercely as I did her. It was a privilege. We met each other. We both had led several different lives before we met each other. And I never thought that anybody would want, like Ingrid, would be interested in somebody who grew up trapping, hunting, fishing, working in the woods, and farming. Turns out those are all skills that she wanted. And she was the most special thing that ever happened to me. Her whole being was a gift. It's said that when you love exists when the welfare of another person is equal or more than your own. And that kind of a gift is what I got from Ingrid. I believe either one of us would have happily died for the other one if we had the choice, or given up everything else. I would give up everything I have today if I could have her back. I always admired curiosity, courage, intelligence, and humor over everything else, and kindness. Ingrid had all of those. I liked her for her toughness. I remember, I'll tell one quick story and see if I can shut it down fast. read the 3 little poems I've been told I should. But when I got run over by the tractor, we'd had a fight. We raised these collie dogs. We sold some of them, and Ingrid said, I want to keep these 4. And I said, over my dead body. We'll have 4 dogs, it's too damn much. This was from a man who, when I was younger, said, a man can never have too many dogs or too many horses. Perhaps you can understand why Ingrid and I clicked. So we all had the dogs. Well, I had a silly escapade. I got run over by the tractor twice. Once going forward, once coming back. And I'm laying there, and I'm thinking to myself, damn, I'm glad it ran into the other tractor. I had parked sideways and stopped, because if the bucket had run over my face and I was going to die, I didn't want Ingrid to have to look at my face ripped off. And I'm lying there, and Ingrid comes out, and she looks down and says, I love you. I love you. Stay right there. We'll get through this. She called ER. They helicoptered me to the hospital. Second helicopter ride of my life, but and neither one was I aware of. I'm in the hospital, and she comes in a couple of days later. I've got a thing in my spine, cut off all sensations. They tell me I've crushed 2 legs, broke 7 ribs, fractured my skull, broke my nose, broke 1 finger. And that was kind of a record for me. I've done a lot of that kind of thing in my life, but that was, that was a topper for me, even for me. She looked down at me and she said, you would have bled out. I was vacuuming. You would have bled out, but 2 of the dogs kept barking. And I said, which 2? She looked down and said, yeah, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to be nice to all of them. So I still have them, and I try to be nice to all of them. He had courage. I never met anybody who loved the outdoors in this country as much as I do. Now, I've been told I wasn't going to do this, but I was told that I was expected to. Because this is one of the things she loved about me, was my work. So these are just 3 short writings that one of them is when she was alive. Yes, and somebody said, well, you should be able to read it. She must have written a lot of poems too. And I said, yeah, I did, but I don't think this is the place. But these are 3. One when she was alive, one right afterwards when I was grieving, and one later on and I thinking about it. The first one is, oh, my beloved. Oh, my beloved, if eternity exists in a single moment, and we are indeed made from the dust and heat of ancient suns and expanding galaxies, I sense within your movements that incorruptible light still flowering as you walk. It says to me, I am now, thou art now, this is now. That's the first one. The second one is right after, more and more. I buried you on the farm as you wished. When I last looked at you, I was amazed by your beauty. I could not change anything. So I screwed the coffin top over your face in your white nightgown and the mouth that spoke mourning to me. I had to shovel the dirt, the rocks, trying to give you back to the earth as you wanted. But I, a selfish old man, only wanted you back, and still do. Don't talk to me of a better place. This farm and this world was good enough for us, what we wanted. Tell me what we'll bring back and fix what is done. In a house where emptiness and void catch the light as visible presence of no presence. Tell me how I may feel your hand again, and hear how I may feel your hand and hear your voice again. Tell me how I can feel your warmth, and tell me how I can share all the beauty we both loved. Yes, tell me how I can share that with you now. The third one is in the winter, after 80. After 80. I know the voices and the loss of the voice. I know the shell of morning and the mountain's dark silhouettes. I know the waking to despair and the gift of work. I know the subtle shift of seasons and the ascent and descent of days. I know the feel of warmth on knees from an open stove door. I knew the voice of one behind me who said good morning in the half light of dawn. And I know this journey to death is not a bad thing. Thank you.
We could call Nathaniel Handler up. John. And it's coming. And I purposely did not give him a program because I wanted it to be a surprise. And I think Mom and John would approve of this gift because it's also a gift to the farm.
Another horse?
No, you don't have to take care of these guys. They can take care of themselves, and I was very happy to see some of them already out and about a couple days ago.
Chicken.
So they're going to find friends.
Closer.
And I also noticed that there's plenty of food for them on this farm.
Beef.
They're animals, and they're really pretty.
I've got already woodchucks, mice, skunks. You have an answer. I
Okay.
got a skunk I'm feeding in the shop every day.
So, John, could you come here? Turn around, John. And anybody, turn around so people can see what's about to. Oh, they want to know.
Butterflies.
Oh.
Wow. I don't cut the milkweed. I never cut milkweed before August.
I know.
Thank you. Wow. That's the best gift I could have had.
Oh, you keep it.
Hi.
Okay, so.
Everybody here is very special to Ingrid, but I want to thank my stepchildren, Bob and Sue, around Virginia, and this young lady here, Jennifer O'Rourke, who headed this, who organized this, and took the lead. Thank you all. And I thank Christina, David, my children, grandchildren, and everybody who helped me get through this last year. It's been the toughest year of my life, and I had a lot of help. And my sister-in-law, who's my favorite sister, Fiona. All of you are special to Ingrid in one way or another, and all of you are special to me. Life is a gift. She gave me a big bonus. And I intend to keep on going because she told me I had to. She gave me a lot of instructions. One of the first instructions she gave me, I will not die in a nursing home, and I promised her that as long as I could walk and breathe, I would not let her do that. And so the biggest gift was to be able to take care of her right up until the end. And to notice that she never, ever looked anything but beautiful. She never looked anything but beautiful.
So we're going to have a 30-second moment of silence, and then we're going to party. Thank you. We're not dismissed yet because we have a most excellent guitarist here, and he is going to play for us, Laurent.
Now they got it.
So, who would like to?
Come up front. I'm Joy, and met Ingrid in 1982 when she came as a locum tenens for the orthopedic practice I was working for. She was my boss, became my mentor, became my friend, confidant. There wasn't much we didn't know about each other. All the eulogies, I knew about everything already. We had happy times, sad times, difficult times. It was interesting working in orthopedic practice, but she was amazing. The toughest, most genuine woman I ever met. We quickly learned about organic this and osteoporosis and everything about that. David, you mentioned Misha. She loved Misha, and when it was Misha's time, she just couldn't be there. So I was elected. So I was with Misha. First you mentioned she was stopped by the police. I heard another story where she was stopped nursing Thorsten and was really put out. But it was like that was her thing. It was like, you got a job to do, I'm doing it, you're in my way, let's get going here. She was amazing. It's a huge loss. It's a big loss for everybody. I insist.
Should I stand up front or stand here?
Whatever you'd like.
However you feel comfortable. I'll stand up front so everyone can hear me. Hi everyone, my name is Edwin Van Bibberwar. I just want to say quickly, thank you so much for having me and my family here. This is an absolutely wonderful ceremony and it means a lot. Thank you for having me here. This is very emotional for me, as I know it is for a lot of us. I just want to say two things. When I met Ingrid, she had met my father, Charlie, Willie, and they were together for about 2 years or so. And are you gonna help me, Thorsten? Thanks. I don't want to go on at length, but what everything everyone said about Ingrid is true. One of the most meaningful things is she took care of my dad, you know, when he was sick at the end of his life, and I'm so glad she met John, because John and my dad are similar in a lot of ways, and John taught me a lot. So she was kind of like a stepmom to me. The other thing about Ingrid is that even though she ended up being my mom's ex-husband's lover, and who my mom loved deeply, even though they divorced till the day that she passed, my mom and Ingrid became best friends. And whenever I tell that story to anyone, they turn their head, they cock their head a bit, and I say yes. And so the friendship that she gave my mom and the love that she gave my family, I'll be forever grateful. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm Lee, and I have some memories of Ingrid. In particular, I have some memories around the horses and so on. But one of my favorite things about Ingrid was that she and John, for years, had a Christmas party here for the local farm community. And it was wonderful to have that house right around Christmas time, just packed with people and kids and so much good food. Everybody brought something. I gotta say, it's something I've really missed. You know, it's something, among the many things that are losses in Ingrid's passing, it seems like that is a piece of it. She was pretty amazing.
I do have to say that I babysat my potbelly pig, Doberman puppies, the horses, and the German shepherds, and. But that was perfect.
And it probably made you a better person,
It did,
too.
especially the potbelly pig.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Let's see. Thank you.
Okay.
I mentioned children and I mentioned family. I wanted to mention Bob and Sue Lewis. Sue Lewis married one of them. Ingrid told me we were going to do that. And I said, we are. Okay. Yeah. Also, Mary, O'Rourke, and Jennifer. And helped me all for this. Life has been a real gift. And nothing else ever happens. I'm happy with it. I wish she was here, of course. As long as I have left. But that's okay. very, very special people. All of you are Ingrid. I didn't marry. I never would get married. I never got married. I never found a woman like Ingrid. We found each other in our 50s. And one day she came down to camp and said, "You can't live here anymore." Why? Because you're going to come up to the farm. And then she was renting a farm in Ryerson Hill. And that was the beginning of the end. And I didn't fight too hard. And we had a hell of a good time for 25 years. Of course we had fights. Of course we had all of us. We never could fight very long because by the time eventually one of us would turn to the other and we get so lonely for each other, we'd go reach around and come up and hug each other and forget about what's going on. We just were unable to, I was unable to live without her, and I think vice versa. And we realized that. It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. And I've been a very, very lucky man. And I don't know what I ever did in my life to deserve this gift. Thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you, everyone.
Love you then. Love you now. Love you always.